be registered, pre-qualified, and then you go through the 20-day bidding process and also the standstill period and so on. This will also apply to the National Gas Company. These are the things I began to think of. And that means that with all of these specialized public bodies, all of them, the regional health authorities that have to procure essential medication, essential equipment from overseas suppliers, because there's very little medication that we make in Trinidad and Tobago. We make some. We don't make a lot. And again, you'll have to exempt the ones they have to buy from overseas and not exempt the ones that you could get locally. I've just given you some idea of the complexity of how we will have to treat with the Ministry of Health. How much more time do I have?
Sorry.
1:40?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So that I do not accept the argument that we'll be coming here infrequently every now and then, and there will be few exemptions. I can see quite a few because of the nature of our country and our industry. We are an oil-based economy. Not all countries are energy-based. Not all companies derive a significant amount of their revenue from natural gas and from petrochemicals and from oil and so on. This is a unique country. So that I don't really agree that we should be coming to this parliament every week to debate this, to argue about whether a fuel contract should be exempt, but an aircraft lease should not. Because that is what the debate is going to get into. I could certainly see with something like Heritage Petroleum. I would not ask for complete exemption. I would not go to the OPR and say, exempt the whole of Heritage Petroleum, because there are many things that they would be procuring locally. And there's no need to exempt local acquisition, local purchases from the Act. But certainly the things that they'll be purchasing overseas that they would need at short notice, one might want to mount an argument that you want to look at that in terms of an exemption. But these are not simple things. It is wrong to try and simplify this whole thing. It's wrong to simplify it. And the more one looks at the regulations, yes, the regulations took a lot of time. The Office of the Procurement Regulator took 2 years with them. So did we in the Ministry of Finance. They were out for public comment for 6 months. They were submitted to all the stakeholders. They came through this parliament and both houses of parliament. All of that is true. But who in the parliament saw in the regulations that we gave the same time for open competitive bidding that we gave to selected limited bidding? What's the time frame for single source? What's the time frame for sole select? Where is it in the regulations? So the point I'm making, Mr. President, and all of the countries that have enacted procurement legislation have experienced this. The EU, the UK, Australia, New Zealand. In England, when they brought the bill for the first time, the bill that has gone through the House of Commons and now is being reviewed by the House of Lords, the MPs in the House of Commons made 500 amendments to the bill. And that bill was produced by experts in the industry in the UK. The brightest and the best in the UK produced that bill for the House of Commons. And when it went to the House of Commons, it was supposed to be fit for purpose. They made 500 amendments. And who knows what the House of Lords will do when they look at what the people in the House of Commons did. And that is the reason why, when I go back to what the Welsh Parliament says is the guideline for negative resolution, certainly we have to remove the ability of the minister to confer significant powers onto himself. That goes without saying. But the rationale for negative resolution is where the subject matter is of a technical nature, and certainly we're going to find ourselves discussing matters of a very technical nature. where it is appropriate to update the subject matter of the regulations on a regular basis. And there will be need to update the regulations on a regular basis. And where, in consideration of these things, it is more appropriate to legislate swiftly. That is when you use negative resolution. So that when I saw this guideline, and it all makes eminent common sense, that's why I decided to do this amendment and take the minister's discretion and take the minister's unilateral regulation making and exemption creating power out. So that now we will have to subject ourselves to the OPR. This problem with Caribbean Airlines will have to, if this Senate approves this bill, I will have to send that to, I'll have to send this letter now to OPR. Look at that and tell me what to do. What purchasing items, what scope of purchasing of Caribbean Airlines do you think should be exempted? I have to do it. I can't allow Caribbean Airlines. I don't know what they're doing now, I don't even want to ask them how they're buying fuel when they land the plane in Toronto. I don't want to know. I don't want to ask, because the airline has to keep running. Can you imagine if we decided, all right, we will apply the rigid structures of this act, Caribbean Airlines shut down tomorrow? I mean, it may very well fall into the definition of an emergency, but that is a matter of opinion. Mr. President, what is wrong with these opposition senators? Why can't they keep quiet, Mr. President?
All right, so the minister only has about 6 or 7 more minutes left, and then we got to go to committee stage. Again, it's 1:31 in the morning. Take that to mean whatever you want. I have senators sleeping. Minister.
So, Mr. President,
it wasn't an invitation to speak. Minister, wrap up.
I know they have problems. They have issues, I know. And you know, Mr. President, one of the things that I found particularly galling tonight was to hear Senator Roberts speak. And I don't think Senator Roberts should be allowed to get away with his contribution tonight, because Senator Roberts is famous in this country for the life sport fiasco. He's famous. He's famous. And you know, Mr. President, when Senator Roberts was regaling us with tales of virtue, what came to mind was Shakespeare's Merchant of Venice. And a passage from Shakespeare's Merchant of Venice, when Antonio, the Merchant of Venice, by the way, scornfully rejected Shylock's attempt to find a justification for usury, money lending. And this is what Antonio said: "Mark you this, Bassanio, the devil can cite scripture for his purpose. An evil soul producing holy witness is like a villain with a smiling cheek, a goodly apple rotten at the heart." That is what came to mind when Senator Roberts was regaling us with stories of virtue. We should not let him get away, Mr. Life Sport. Should not get away.
Okay, that's enough. Senator Mark, and senators. We've had our light moment, so let's bring the chamber back to a level of decorum. Minister.
So, the whole point of what we have done, I've looked at the amendments as well, and I must say, Senator Dialsing, I want to compliment you on your amendments. Obviously, from what I'm seeing here, they're just like a little children, you know. When I looked at Senator Dialsing's amendment, what Senator Dialsing is doing, from what I'm seeing, is in agreement with what we are seeking to do, but he wanted exempted procurement transactions to be submitted to the office for transparency and publication. And I agreed with that. I agree. But then we got a message from the judiciary. And they made the point, and I want to say this, that among the items that the judiciary procures would be safe houses for victims of domestic violence awaiting the completion of a trial, or safe houses for vulnerable witnesses in perhaps a murder trial where the accused is trying to kill the witness, and they have to keep these witnesses in safe houses. And if we were to publish all the procurement, obviously things like transportation and meals and that is not a matter of national security.
Minister, you have 5 more minutes.
Yes, but if we were to publish where the safe houses were, because that is the contract, we would be jeopardizing the safety of the witnesses. I've spoken to Senator Dayal Singh about this. I still want exempt services to be published. I give that assurance that there must be some way to account for exempt services. There must be a way. And we have to come back to the Parliament and deal with that, to deal with how do we deal with exempt services. There is a provision in the Act for guidelines to be made by the minister annually, and they will be made this year. We're almost finished. But a guideline cannot compel someone to publish the details of procurement. So we have to come back and do amendments to the Act so that with the exempt services, we do have the transparency and the scrutiny that is required. Because I've listened to what people are saying. There are two messages coming through to us. One is the need for transparency. People must know about all the procurement that is being done by public bodies. I agree with that. People must know. There should be nothing to hide. You should know who got what contract, how they got it, how much it was, what it was for, when they got it, and all that sort of thing. I completely agree with that. So we have to find a way to modify the Act so that with exempt services, there is some way of determining non-controversial things. As I said, we can't disclose everything, but things that are routine, there must be some way of disclosing that. And the other message I got was the need for a hands-off approach to the whole question of adjustments to the legislation. And as I come back to what Senator Richards said, we have created this office, and I have decided through the amendment to get the minister out of, remove the power from the minister. In other words, the minister cannot confer this power on himself to make regulations and to create exempt services. I noticed that Senator Diona Ryan just wanted to give us 5 months. I think we need a little bit more than that. And I like this idea of the contracts awarded to be reported to the office and so on. But again, we run into this issue of disclosing things that should not be disclosed, like a contract for a safe house. So I think that is something I give the undertaking that we need to come back and deal with that. How do we deal with disclosure with respect to exempt services? With respect to the amendments from Senator Vera, I think upon the initiative of the minister has to be there. I've explained why. The OPR is an academic research organization. And even if you put that in, it doesn't mean the minister could do anything except ask the OPR whether they agree with this amendment to the regulation, as the case may be. With respect to the first amendment from Senator Vera, I don't think it's required because Senator Richards, when we were debating the 2020 amendments to create the exempt services, asked me to agree that guidelines be published. You can't have guidelines and regulations at the same time. To me, that would be in conflict. And in any event, I do believe this provision that we agreed to in 2020 about guidelines is adequate. With respect to why are we here? We are here out of an abundance of caution to validate the two orders, which I think is important. We are here to ask senators to agree, subject to regulations that will be created by the Office of Procurement Regulation now with these amendments, that we allow a threshold of $1 million, but subject to simplified rules, which will be done by the OPR. And we are here to allow some flexibility in regulation making and in the creation of exempt services. And I do think this is something that qualifies for negative. But I do also agree that it should not involve any minister having any power whatsoever on his own without any reference to anybody else creating or modifying these things. And with those words, Mr. President, I beg to move.
Honorable Senators, the question is that a bill entitled An Act to Amend the Public Procurement and Disposal of Public Property Act 2015 and to validate the non-laying of statutory instruments as required under Section 7(7) of the Public Procurement and Disposal of Public Property Act be now read a second time. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. I think the ayes have it.
Act to amend the Public Procurement and Disposal of Public Property Act 2015 and to validate the non-laying of statutory instruments as required under Section 7, subsection 7 of the Public Procurement and Disposal of Public Property Act.
Minister of Finance.
Mr. President, in accordance with Standing Order 66-1, I beg to move that the Public Procurement and Disposal of Public Property Amendment and Validation Bill 2023 be committed to a committee of the whole Senate forthwith to be considered clause by clause.
Honorable Senators, the question is that the Public Procurement and Disposal of Public Property Amendment and Validation Bill 2023 be committed to a committee of the whole Senate forthwith to be considered clause by clause. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. I think the ayes have it. The Senate shall now go into committee of the whole to consider the bill clause by clause. All right, Honorable Senators, the interesting thing is this. The Minister of Finance, in his wrap-up, spoke to several of the amendments that have already been circulated in terms of answering them and so forth. So, in the interest of time, and given the time of the morning that it is right now, I'll ask this question before we get into the proper procedure. Given what the Minister of Finance has said in his wrap-up, and the senators that have circulated amendments, which is Senator Vera, Senator Dionarine, and Senator Dialsing. Are there any of those three senators who have just called, based on what has been said thus far, are you willing to withdraw your proposed amendments, or is it that you wish for those amendments to be put by way of question?
So the amendment where I had about with the approval of,
okay, so I mean,
I'm going to withdraw that because the minister's
well, we'll get to that.
amendment.
We'll get to that. I'm just want to deal quickly with anybody who wishes to withdraw the entirety. If you want to take out something and put something, we will do that. Senator Dionarine, you want to put the question in? You want it still put? Considered. Or considered? Sorry.
Yes, I would like it to still
Yes?
be considered, please.
Yes. Okay. And Senator Dialsing.
Yes, I'd like to add
Yes,
something.
okay, perfect. So then we'll go through as per usual. Right, Honorable Senators, there are 6 clauses in this bill. And a preamble. So we shall now begin. Clerk.
Clauses 1 and 2.
Honourable Senators, the question is that clauses 1 and 2 stand part of the bill. Honourable Senators, the question is that clauses 1 and 2 now stand part of the bill. Those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say no. No. I think the ayes have it. Clauses 1 and 2 now stands part of the bill.
Clause 3.
Honourable Senators, the question is that clause 3 stand part of the bill. Senator Dayal Singh, we'll start with yours. No, you have clause 4, so we'll start with Senator Vera.
Thank you, Chair. In my proposed amendment, there's a typo. I was referring to section 7(6). So what it was to change is, in section 7, it says, this act shall not apply to the following services. And my amendment was going to be take out this act shall not and substitute appropriate regulations shall apply to the following services provided to public bodies or state-controlled enterprises. The background to that, of course, is, as I had said, I don't believe that there should be a carte blanche exemption as cast. The way this is cast, these things fall outside of the ambit and jurisdiction of the procurement regulator. I really do believe that the regulator must have scrutiny. All procurement must be subject to the Procurement Act, and the principles of the parent law must always have applicability. Exemptions should be conditional. So that is why that's the thrust of the amendment.
Yeah, in discussing with the draftsperson, it's changing the entire complexion of a section that we debated at length and agreed in this place and in the other place that there should be exemptions to which the Act would not apply. I am hearing what you're saying, but I don't think we could do this on the floor tonight. I understand what you're saying, that you don't think that exempt services should be fully exempt. But that is not what we debated here when we debated this the last time. So that's a fundamental departure from, I will need to, because I've asked for research to be done on this. Just coincidentally, before we came here, because of all the discussion about exempt services, I've asked, how is this dealt with in other countries? And I have not got the benefit of that yet. So I don't think we should fundamentally change the meaning and effect of something we already debated and agreed in this House.
Well, again, as you said, I could see takes you by surprise, and it may be something that you don't want to deal with on the floor. But if I can get your assurance that
I give you my assurance because I'm already trying to figure out how do you regulate exempt services.
Even using the example of CAL.
Yeah.
CAL shouldn't be totally exempt, but we could say there's a special regulation for aircraft carriers.
Yeah.
Also for the judiciary. So I do think...
No, I'm giving you the assurance that we will find a methodology using best practice. We're not going to try and reinvent the wheel to regulate exempt services, or to allow transparency. I think that's what you're driving at. People must know what contracts were awarded under the exemption process.
And the regulator must have
And the
scrutiny.
regulator must have some way of dealing with it. I understand.
Yeah. The second amendment under this, well, you brought an amendment after this,
Right.
but basically saying the same thing.
Right.
So I'm quite happy to withdraw my own and go with
Okay.
yours.
Thank you. All right.
So you withdrawing all of 3 now?
All of
Okay.
Yes.
Good. All right, so Senator...
And 5.
And 5.
And 5.
And 5.
And 5.
Because 5 is the same.
That's fine. Senator Dionarine?
Excuse me.
Senator Thompson, aye?
Yes. 7B, 1.
Where is this? Which amendment?
Remember I had asked?
3?
3, subsection 7. Remember I had asked about whether the use of the word words is correct?
Is that you speaking about something grammatical? Drafting step. We will deal with that. We will deal with that. I just want to deal with Senator Dionarine's proposed amendment as circulated first for clause 3.
Oh, okay.
Senator Dionarine?
Well, I have an answer on that.
Yeah, you'll get there, don't worry.
Right.
Senator Dionarine?
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I appreciate the explanation that the Honourable Minister would have given while he wrapped up the debate. However, through you, what I want to ask the minister is, how do we avoid a situation where we end up having too many things being considered to be exempted? Because from what the minister was saying in the wrap-up, it seems as if there will be regular occurrences of exemptions coming up, but we don't know just yet how many of these exemptions will be coming up. We don't know where exactly they are, how technical they are. What we also don't know is if these exemptions are going to only be coming up for a temporary period of time, given that the act is only now proclaimed. So it might be for maybe the first year or the first 6 months. So those are my questions with respect to...
Yeah, those are very good questions. And we will have to leave that up to the Office of Procurement Regulation, which I don't expect. They may very well do things in a grap, to use local parlance. They might come with a series of exemptions after consultation with all relevant parties. But it will no longer be a minister doing it. It will be the Office of Procurement. They may exempt no one. When we present Caribbean Airlines' problem to them, they say, look, we have a solution for that, and it doesn't require an exemption. I don't have a crystal ball. I can't tell you how many exemptions there would be, but as far as I could see, there would be several, and they will be complex. But it will not be done by a politician. It will be done by the Office of Procurement Regulation. And I could see the need for temporary exemptions rather than permanent exemptions. I can see that. Because the 2 exemption orders that I did were only for 3 months. I did not want to. I could have done an exemption for the judiciary that was permanent. But I certainly did not want to do that. And I'll tell you what I told them through the Attorney General. I said, you're getting 3 months. And within that 3 months, put your house in order and get your suppliers registered and pre-qualified and so on. So that I would expect the same approach, the same responsible professional approach would be adopted to any exemption that the OPR would want to recommend to the minister. But I don't have a crystal ball. Okay?
Thank you, Minister.
And I think I have to agree with Senator Richards, although I could see some of these things may be a hard sell. I may want to have an exemption and the OPR may say no. And I might think it's critical and need it, or we need it, the country needs it. And they say, no, sorry, we'll deal with that in another way. I think we have to trust the process because we have created an independent body. It's a professional body. It's filled with professional people, and we have to allow them to deal with it. You see, you're kind of asking for your cake and you want to eat it too, because you're asking me to what would the exemptions be. I don't know, because I have now delegated and abandoned and resiled from the making of regulations and exemptions. Not me anymore. So I can't say.
But Minister, you can still suggest or recommend.
I can recommend,
right,
but they don't have to take me on.
Right, okay. But at least you will bring to their attention.
I will. I'm
importantly.
certainly this one with Caribbean Airlines. They're getting that tomorrow. I'm going to ask them what they think about that.
Minister, could you just respond to Senator Thompson?
Oh, certainly. Apparently, in the rules of legislative drafting, the brackets, open and closed brackets, count as words, believe it or not. So it's open bracket 5, closed bracket 5, those are 3 words. That's what the legislative drafting expert has told me. So words is correct.
Senator
Okay.
Dinoy.
Minister of Finance, through you, Mr. Chair. I don't know if there's a legal something in the law that deals with this, but what happens in a situation where both the OPR and the minister cannot agree? Because we're not talking about this minister alone and this regulator alone. We're talking about regulators.
You want a simple answer for that?
Yes.
Too bad. Because we have decided that the competence and the integrity resides with the Office of Procurement Regulation. That is the whole thrust of Senator Richards' argument. That, and he said, we may not be able to trust another Minister of Finance. And he might be right.
Using the analogy of the DPP for criminal matters,
he might
the
be right.
procurement regulator now has sole control of procurement matters of the regime.
So that's the answer to your question.
so-
we have decided we create this body and we trust them to have the competence and the integrity and the professionalism to get it right. And if they don't get it right, as I said, tough. It's one of those constitutional conundrums where you're just stuck and there's nothing you can do. You could use moral suasion. You could put pressure to bear on them. You can try and I think eventually they would do what is right. Okay, if they're doing something that is wrong, I think eventually through moral suasion, stakeholder pressure, civil society, they will do what is correct. Okay?
I'll take Senator Mark and then Senator Welch.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I just want
Members, please, I need to hear what senators are actually saying to the Minister of Finance so he can
I
respond.
just wanted Senator Durant to clarify her amendment. When we look at clause 3, B, Roman 2, can you clarify if you are proposing affirmative to replace negative?
Yes.
And what is your position? Is the minister
Members,
gonna allow-
please, just-
Is it affirmative?
Let the procedure flow.
The minister would
Why
have
do you
given,
ask? That's the procedure.
the minister would
That
have
is the
given an
procedure.
explanation in his wrap-up.
No,
That's not the
I'm
case.
just trying to get
Okay.
clarification.
Hold on.
That is not the procedure.
Hold on. Members, let me handle the procedure. Any which way you take it, there's a circulated amendment by a particular senator who has asked questions of the Minister of Finance, which has been answered. Senator Mark is just seeking clarification, which he can do. You've sought your clarification, correct?
Yeah, well, I'm
Right,
just...
so Senator Dionarine,
Yes, if
we
you could
know what
just
the amendment
clarify.
is, we know what the amendment says.
it's in the
I
English
will ask
language.
of you once I finish with Senator Welch. Senator Welch,
Chairman, with your leave, I was hoping I might ask if I can make a suggestion of a minor amendment, which I have not circulated.
This is something that you raised on the floor.
Something, I raised it during the contribution.
On the floor.
Yes.
When you were talking,
Yes.
you want to add the letter E.
Yes, it
To
refers
six.
to the 3B1.
So you, instead of the words open brackets 6 close brackets, you want open brackets 6 open a next set of brackets small e close a next set of brackets close brackets.
Yeah, I believe it would be open bracket 6, close bracket 6, then open bracket letter E, close bracket.
Well, I don't think so. I think the brackets are a little mixed up there because you're talking about all the words contained within the brackets, but it doesn't matter. We will add E to the 6 if that solves the problem.
Yes, if you add E to the 6, I'm happy with that, as opposed to leaving the 6 alone.
Yeah, we're adding the E in brackets.
Yes,
Right. We agree.
thank you.
So that's on the floor, eh? Common E after the word 6, so it will be 6E. Open brackets 6. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Open brackets, close, yeah. Open brackets, close, open brackets, close brackets, open brackets, close brackets, close brackets.
Senator Vera.
Thank you. Minister, I believe for most of us, the issue about affirmative and negative resolution is probably the most troubling aspect of the amendments.
Yes.
I'm wondering if you could help clarify for the record. I suspect that for many, the thinking is that if it's negative and you want to annul the enactment, there's a process and you have to come by way of private members' motion. My understanding, and you can tell me if I'm right, is that when you lay the instrument in Parliament, you have 40 days in each house within which that's the prescribed period within which you could bring the annulment motion. And once that annulment motion is brought it must be dealt with promptly and in any event within that 40 days. It's given priority, is that right?
Correct.
So
There's no idea that you have to wait until the next private members day and the next private members day because you might not find a slot. So you might have to wait 6 months before. No. It has to be debated and dealt with within the 40 days, and it must be dealt with as a matter of urgency. It doesn't have to wait for private members day. The House will have to convene a sitting to deal with that, okay? Or to put it on the agenda within a sitting. Doesn't have to wait for private members day.
Chair, following up on Senator Vieira's comment about the affirmative and yeah, I was just wondering whether, based on what we had, I think many of us have said, in the early phase of this thing, in other words, this is now starting to change, why not do that for a while, for 6 months, for a year, and make it that, so that in the early stages, you should, and we would be more comfortable with that coming. And then after that, then put it to negative resolution and change it then.
For precisely the reasons and the arguments that I have made, I use the Caribbean Airlines example, but there are many others that come to mind. And we would be convening the House on numerous occasions because these things will not emerge immediately. They will every week. When a state enterprise or a public body runs into trouble, you're going to find yourself convening Parliament every single week. It's just the health sector alone to figure out whether we should have exemptions today or not. It's going to be a bit of a nightmare. So for the reasons that I have advanced, this is why we are asking for the negative. And the fact that the minister is now out of the picture and the OPR now decides whether an exemption should occur at all, I think that deals with the question, the fear that people have that exemptions will occur that should not occur.
Senator Mark.
Mr. Chairman, I think that is a reasonably eminent position being advanced by Senator Remy. And as Senator Hazel Thompson indicated some time ago, in the Jamaican procurement law, there is provision for an affirmative resolution. And what the minister is engaging in is scaremongering. And I think that, we must have respect.
You're not allowed to debate.
Senator Mark, okay.
Yeah.
You've made your point?
No,
just tighter, because he's right. We're not allowed to re-debate the issue.
I'm not re-debating anything, sir.
Really?
What I'm saying is that lawmaking belongs to the Parliament, and what we are doing is conceding.
Of course.
We are giving our power to the cabinet. That is what we are doing. When we say negative resolution, we are giving the cabinet our power.
Mr. President.
And all I'm saying, Mr. Chairman, is this. We cannot rely on the government to give us the facts. We need to debate these things openly.
Senator
and
Mark, you have a
frontally.
question for the chairman, for the Minister of Finance, sorry?
No, I'm just saying.
So you just made the statement, Minister of
I'm
Finance.
just
Well, I will have to
respond?
make a statement as well.
position.
I'll defer to Senator Vera.
Senator Vera.
just to correct, I understand the impression, but honestly, in light of the amendment that has been made where the minister is no longer involved, the minister is no more than a conduit. The minister brings the instrument because he has standing in the Parliament, not the procurement regulator. But it is the procurement regulator that is in charge. It is the procurement regulator that is bringing the regulation and the timing of the regulation.
Thank you for
Final statements by the Minister
The
of
point
Finance.
I want to make is that the statements made by Senator Mark are incorrect. The cabinet will not be involved in the making of these regulations or the exemptions. We have delegated that and we have given it over to the Office of Procurement Regulation. It's not the cabinet anymore. And Senator Vera has properly articulated it. That's incorrect statements.
Okay, so we have on the floor, we have the amendment proposed by Senator Dionarine. Senator Dionarine, are you still proposing that amendment? Because we still at clause 3, you still have one on the floor. Delete subsection B2.
Amendment.
You will leave it?
Yes.
Okay,
I'll
good.
put it to the question.
Honorable Senators, the question is that clause 3 be amended as circulated by Senator Dionarine. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no.
No.
I think
You can have division on that. But I can't vote. So I shouldn't even say aye.
No. Ms. Kofi Schoon?
No.
Mr. Sinanan?
Mr.
Sinanan? No.
I said no.
Mr. Hussain?
No.
Mr. Mitchell?
No.
Mr. Bacchus?
No.
Dr. Ibrahim? Mrs. Sadran Singh Sukla?
No.
Mr. Sukai? Mrs. Razama Lee Singh?
No.
Mr. Hislop?
No.
Mr. Seals?
No.
Ms. Vitelmi?
No.
Mr. Boris?
No.
Mr. Young?
No.
Mr. Mark?
Yes.
Ms. John?
Yes.
Ms. Media?
Yes.
Mr. Nakid?
yes.
Mr. Lyder?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Dr. Richards?
Yes.
Mr. Veresi?
No.
Dr. Dial Singh?
Yes.
Ms. Dionarine? Ms. Dionarine?
Yes.
Ms. C. Prasad?
Yes.
Mr. Timal?
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson Ai?
Yes.
Dr. Remy?
Yes.
Mr. Welch?
Yes.
14, 16? 14 members voted for, 16 members against, and no abstentions.
Honorable Senators, the results of the division is as follows. 14 members voted for, 16 members voted against, and there were 0 abstentions. As such, the clause 3 is not amended, as proposed by Senator Dionarine. I will now put the question and dispense with Senator Welch's amendment. So, Honorable Senators, the question is that clause 3 be amended as follows. At clause 3, B1, open bracket 6, close bracket 6, open bracket, common E, close bracket, common E. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. I think the ayes have it. Honorable Senators, the question is that clause 3 as amended now stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. No. I think the ayes have it. Clause 3 as amended now stands part of the bill. That is Senator Welch's amendment. Right? Okay, so now we are going to treat with the clause 3A as proposed by the Minister of Finance. Minister of Finance, you have anything to say?
Yes, I want to repeat that this falls within the guidelines in the Welsh Parliament for negative resolution because it no longer confers powers on the minister that he should not have. And therefore, we have changed in consultation with, which as senators correctly said, would allow the minister to proceed even if the OPR disagreed with the agreement of, which means we cannot proceed if the OPR disagrees. So we have taken the minister's power away.
Okay.
You know,
Right, so Honorable Senators, the question is that Clause 3 be amended as circulated by the Minister of Finance. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. No. I think the ayes have it. Honorable Senators, the question is that Clause 3, as amended, now stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. No. I think the ayes have it. Clause 3, as amended, now stands part of the bill.
Clause 4.
Honorable Senators, the question is that Clause 4 stand part of the bill. We have proposed amendments by Senator Dayal Singh. Senator Dayal Singh.
Through you, Chair. Minister, I had sought to put in this part 2, exempted procurement transactions shall be submitted to the office, to try and see if we can somehow put in the $1 million contracts that were exempted, to put it under some scrutiny by the procurement regulator. And I realized what you told me there, that it would be a difficult thing to put, because we would be putting persons' life at risk in cases where there's the domestic violence, homes, etc. Is it possible to put at the end of that, except where disclosure puts a life at risk?
The problem is we don't have enough time tonight. Of course, that is a very good, excellent suggestion, but what about other things like safety and security? You know, so it's more than just lives at risk.
Sure.
Yeah?
Okay.
So I have given the assurance that I will see what's done in other countries with respect to disclosure, with respect to exempt services, and we will come to Parliament with that.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, could the minister indicate to the Senate so we can put on the record when he gives an assurance? Can the minister indicate to this House what time frame? Is it a month from now? Is it 2 weeks from now? Or is it open-ended? Because I don't want the minister to mamagayas. So let him give us a specific time
Minister.
when he come back.
It's very difficult to give a time frame.
And that is why we have to put the law in
Okay,
place.
Senator Mark. Minister.
Can't help himself.
It's open.
Stop it. But I'm going to make the best effort to complete this exercise before the end of this year, 2023.
Okay.
Because remember, we're in recess, then we go into the budget cycle, which takes us to the end of October. So we have literally the month of November and maybe half of December. But I will get the draftsmen working on it immediately, so that when we finish the budget exercise, we can come to the Parliament as quickly as possible after the budget exercise with this.
So, Senator Mark, hold on. So you've asked the question for a time frame. A time frame has been given by the Minister of Finance.
Before the 31st of December,
Senator Mark, I understand where you're trying to get at, and I think the Minister of Finance has responded. I suspect the answer will be the same.
It's the same answer you get.
Exactly. So I'm going to move on. No, Senator Mark, I'm going to move on now. Senator Dayal Singh, is it that the amendment is still proposed, or are you withdrawing?
I'm withdrawing.
You withdraw.
Thank you.
Senator Dionamine, you have proposed amendments to Clause 4.
Thank you, Chair. Minister of Finance, through you, Chair, when you spoke to this section during the debate, when you piloted and then when you wrapped up, the indication that I got was that it is not necessarily an exemption you want from the Parent Act, but what you really want to do is to have a certain value of procurement of goods and services to be subjected to simpler procurement processes, right?
Correct.
So what I sought to do here was to, because the name of the, I don't know what they call that part of the law, the name of the thing was exempt from this act. I thought that maybe what you were trying to do was say simplified procurement requirements. I don't know if this is the right legal drafting. And also what I sought to do was to reduce the limit, the threshold, to $500,000, bearing in mind that I find that $1 million is far too much, and also bearing in mind that $600,000 per year is the VAT threshold. And also, given that this is really to give an opportunity for contractors, suppliers, procurement officers to get to a point where they are fully on board, or they can register with the depository, and they can be, and the different public bodies can be fully staffed in their different procurement offices, that it would give some time to allow these procurements to take place up to a point in time. And then by that time, by let's say December 2023, you have a situation where you can no longer continue this, and because most of them would already be registered or pre-qualified.
I don't think we need to try and get into expert drafting at this time. I don't think we need to put these words into simplified procurement requirements, because what we expect the OPR to do is to look at what is done around the world for small and medium enterprises. So it is, when you look at the regulations in the UK, for example, they are focused on small and medium enterprises. They're not called simplified procurement requirements. And since we are now delegating everything to the OPR, they will understand what we're doing. They'll have heard what we spoke about in this debate. So it's for SMEs. That's what it's for. So I would prefer not to be so prescriptive as you are here. And I think this should be something that we should keep for quite a while. I think we're going to need this for SMEs continuously, because new players come into the market all the time. So I don't think this should be a cutoff in 2023. I think this 1 million with regulations made by the OPR geared at assisting SMEs should be a permanent feature of the legislation. It is a permanent feature of the legislation in virtually every other procurement act. Just take a look at the Barbados legislation, and they have this for 150,000 US, about $1 million, and it's a permanent feature of their legislation. Look all around the world, and you'll see this is a permanent feature. So I don't see any need for this to be time-barred, but we are going to be asking the OPR to look at best practice around the world, to put in regulations that are fit for purpose for small and medium enterprises.
And could the minister clarify whether he's telling this parliament that the $1 million or less is going to be specifically designed to aid and assist small and medium-sized businesses? Or is this $1 million going to be used to buy coffee and other facilities and so on for use at various offices? I want them to be very specific in clarifying this for us.
Whether the 58A, Clause 4, 58A said, subject to regulations made under Sector, the procurement of goods and services up to 1 million are exempt from the procurement requirements under this Act. Yet, we are putting the procurement regulator to make regulations for this same area there that we are saying is no longer under the, it's exempt from the procurement. Is there a contradiction there? I'm just asking for clarity.
No, because the regulations will determine how people will behave with respect to this procurement.
Great.
Okay?
Thanks.
What's the Senator Mark, if any?
I can't remember what he said.
He asked if it's small business or coffee.
I couldn't understand, because a coffee would be sold by a small business. I didn't understand.
Senator Dionarine, you still put in a question, yes?
Question.
Sure.
Minister of Finance, through you, Chair, I didn't get a response to reducing the value.
Oh, the reason, I didn't pull this out of a hat. That's why I spent some time, although my dear friend, Senator Vera, interrupted me abruptly, I wouldn't say rudely, 3 times when I was in full flight trying to show you around the world that the limit for this is usually in the vicinity of $150,000 US, $1 million. And we do feel, when we look at the history of procurement over the years, the fact that it was felt by successive parliaments and successive governments that $1 million was a reasonable figure to have simplified procedures. That's why I went with $1 million. I think 500,000 is a little too low, especially in 2023. That's my view. Okay.
Senator, do you mind?
Yeah. And I've just reminded with post-Ukraine and inflation and all that kind of thing, it is a little too low.
Can I ask?
Senator C. Prasad?
Minister, I'm just trying to get clarification. The regulations concerning this particular exemption will be included in the list of stuff that you will bring before the end of the year with these regulations?
I remember now, I have to go and ask the OPR. That's why I was unable to give Senator Mark a definitive answer. I had to go and ask them to make these regulations, and I want to make something clear. This procurement can't take place. This procurement with simplified procedures up to $1 million cannot take place until these regulations are made. So this is not a tomorrow thing, you know. Some people seem to think that we pass this tonight. Tomorrow, people could start procuring up to $1 million just willy-nilly. We have to wait now, because I've removed myself from the legislation. We have to wait for the OPR to recommend them.
But I suppose you would use your good office to
I'm going to try. But no, I could only use suasion on them. I can't instruct them. I can't tell them what to do.
No, but I suppose you could explain.
Senator, do you mind? Continue or you withdraw?
I will withdraw.
Withdraw.
Thank you.
Okay. So then we will put the question as per normal. Honourable Senators, the question is that Clause 4 now stand part of the bill. Those in favour say aye. Aye. Let me say that again and listen carefully. Honourable Senators, the question is that Clause 4, as it is in the bill, now stand part of the bill. Those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say no. I think the ayes have it. Clause 4 now stands part of the bill.
Clause 5.
Honourable Senators, the question is that Clause 5 stand part of the bill. Senator Dionarine?
Because, I mean,
Thank
we
you.
have dealt with this part here.
Chair, I will withdraw Part A because I realize that it is in alignment with what the Minister of Finance has proposed in his circulated amendment. Am I correct? Yes.
What would it be?
With respect to B, I understand the situation with publishing the contracts awarded. So then, in that case, is it possible to have these regulations made, have it worded such as, have the regulations made under Section 63(1)(c) shall provide for the contracts awarded to be reported to the office, full stop?
Well, this would not apply to exempt services. Huh? You understand that? The effect of your proposed amendment is you're just saying contracts under $1 million. This is the effect of what you're telling us. It is for contracts under $1 million.
Yes.
But it would not apply to exempt services because they're exempt from this.
Yes.
I'm okay with that. I don't know. What do you think, Attorney General?
Shall provide the contracts awarded to be reported to the office.
On a quarterly basis to be reported to the office, full stop, right?
Yes, to be reported to the office, full stop.
So, okay, now that we have, what are you laughing at, sir? Is children are dealing with here?
Let us honestly.
There's serious things going on here.
It's 2:23 in the morning. Really, honestly. We've been moving with some alacrity and efficiency. So let's continue to do that.
Yes, I'm just trying to get a better understanding now. So we're going to say that regulations made under Section 63(1)(c), and those with the regulations for procedures for the procurement of goods and services of up to $1 million, will be reported to the office. I don't have a problem with that. Okay? I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Yeah?
Sir, Finance, yes?
Yeah?
As it is here, without any added words.
No.
We're
taking out A, taking out the big A, and then deleting all the words after the word office in the second line.
Okay. Okay. Honorable Senators, the question is that clause 5 be amended as circulated by Senator Dionerine and further amended as follows. Withdraw Part A, and in Part B will read as follows. B, by inserting after subsection 3 the following new subsection. 4, regulations made under subsection 63(1)(c) shall provide for the contracts awarded to be reported to the office. Full stop. Correct. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no.
No, you had a vote for the bill.
I think the ayes have it.
They don't vote the same time.
Honourable Senators, the question is that clause 5 as amended now stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. I think the ayes have it. Clause 5. Clause 5 as amended now stands part of the bill. So Senator Vera, just for the record, your clause 5 as circulated is withdrawn. Yes. That is now on the record. Minister of Finance, you have a proposed amendment for clause 5?
Clause 5?
Yep, 5A1A.
Do I?
Huh?
Same language.
Yeah.
Agreement.
Is that? Oh yes, I'm so sorry. Yeah, it's here. Yeah, it's circulated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have to put his.
Where is it? This is not it. This is not it. No, but there's a list. There's an amendment list.
Yeah, it's an amendment list.
You have it there? No, look at that. Right. Let's go. Yes. It's exactly the same as we did with 3. Mr. President, exactly the same as we did with 3. Remove in consultation with, replace with the words with the agreement of, which would mean now that exemptions would be done on the recommendation of the OPR or upon the initiative of the minister with the agreement of the OPR. So again, this has now been delegated to, well, not abdicated is probably a better word, to the OPR. Okay?
Honourable Senators, the question is that clause 5 be amended as circulated by the Minister of Finance. Those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say no. No. I think the ayes have it. Honourable Senators, the question is that clause 5 as amended now stand part of the bill. Those in favour say aye. Those against say no. No. I think the ayes have it. Clause 5 as amended now stands part of the bill.
Clause 6.
Honourable Senators, the question is that clause 6 stand part of the bill. Honourable Senators, the question is that clause 6 now stand part of the bill. Those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say no.
No. Division.
Mr.
Clause
for
6.
SC.
Aye.
Ms. Gopi Schoon.
Yes.
Mr. Sinanan.
Yes.
Mr. Hussein.
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell.
Yes.
Mr. Barkas.
Yes.
Dr. Ibrahim. Mrs. Sajran Singh Suklal. Mr. Sukai.
Yes.
Mrs. Lazama Lee Singh.
Yes.
Mr. Hislop.
Yes.
Mr. Seals.
Yes.
Ms. Vitalmi.
Yes.
Mr. Boris. Mr.
The
Young.
Senators, I would like to hear the answers to the division.
Mr. Mark.
No.
Ms. John.
No.
Ms. Lushmi Dial.
No.
Mr. Nakid.
No.
Mr. Lyder.
No.
Mr. Roberts.
No, Stephen.
Dr. Richards. Mr. Veresi.
Yes.
Dr. Dial Singh.
Abstain.
Ms. Dionerine.
Abstain.
Ms. C. Prasad.
Yes.
Mr. Timal.
Yes.
Mrs. Thompson-Aye.
Yes.
Dr. Dylan Remy.
Yes.
Mr. Welch.
Yes.
21, 6, 21, 3. Yeah. So, Mr. President.
Honourable Senators, the results of the division is as follows. 21 senators voted for, 6 senators voted against, and 3 senators abstained. As such, Clause 6 now stands part of the bill.
The preamble.
Honourable Senators, the question is that the preamble to the bill be approved. Those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say no. I think the ayes have it. The preamble to the bill is approved. Honourable Senators, the question is that the bill as amended be now reported to the Senate. Those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say no. I think the ayes have it. The bill as amended will now be reported to the Senate.
So,
Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Dylan Remy.
I just realized that in the preamble, there's the change that Senator Welch had asked for 6. It's 6, it should be 6E also in the preamble.
It doesn't form part of the bill.
What's that? The preamble doesn't form part?
Okay, so
I know, I just saw it up.
Yeah, thank you. Minister of Finance, go ahead.
It's okay. All right. The substantive section has been amended. Thank you. Mr. President, I wish to report that the Public Procurement and Disposal of Public Property Amendment and Validation Bill 2023 was considered in Committee of the Whole and approved with amendments. I now beg to move that the Senate agree with the committee's report.
Honourable Senators, the question is that this Senate agree with the committee's report on the Public Procurement and Disposal of Public Property Amendment and Validation Bill 2023. Those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say no. I think the ayes have it.
Mr. Amorasi? Yes. Ms. Gopi Skoon?
Yes.
Mr. Sinanan?
Yes.
Mr. Hussein?
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Bacchus?
Yes.
Dr. Ibrahim?
Yes.
Mrs. Sajwan Singh Sukla?
Yes.
Mr. Sukai?
Yes.
Mrs. Lizama Lee Singh?
Yes.
Mr. Hislop?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Ms. Vitalmi?
Yes.
Mr. Boris?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mr. Mark?
No, no.
Ms. John?
No.
Ms. Lachmidial?
No.
Mr. Nakid?
No.
Mr. Lyda?
No.
Mr. Roberts?
No.
Dr. Richards?
Abstain.
Mr. Veresi?
Yes.
Dr. Dial Singh?
Abstain.
Ms. Yunarang?
Yes.
Ms. C. Prasad? Ms. C. Prasad?
Yes.
Mr. Timal?
No.
Mrs. Thompson-Aye?
No.
Dr. Dylan Remy?
Yes.
Mr. Welch?
No.
Mr. President, the results of the division is as follows. 19 members voted for, 9 members voted against, and 2 members abstained.
Honourable Senators, the results of the division is as Senator Roberts. Honourable Senators, the results of the division is as follows. 19 senators voted for, 9 senators voted against, and there were 2 abstentions. As a result, the question is put and passed. Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. President. I beg to move that a bill entitled An Act to Amend the Public Procurement and Disposal of Public Property Act 2015 and to validate the non-laying of statutory instruments as required under Section 7 of the Public Procurement and Disposal of Public Property Act be now read a third time and passed.
Honourable Senators, the question is that a bill entitled An Act to Amend the Public Procurement and Disposal of Public Property Act 2015 and to validate the non-laying of statutory instruments as required under Section 7(7) of the Public Procurement and Disposal of Public Property Act be now read a third time and passed. Those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say no.
No division.
See? Yes. Ms. Gopi Schoon? Yes. Mr. Sinanan? Yes. Mr. Hussein?
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Barkas? Yes. Dr. Ibrahim?
Yes.
Mrs. Sajwan Singh Suklao? Mr. Sukai?
Yes.
Mrs. Lazama Lee Singh?
Yes.
Mr. Hislop?
Yes.
Mr. Seals?
Yes.
Ms. Bitalmi?
Yes.
Mr. Boris?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mr. Mark?
No.
Ms. John?
No.
Ms. Lachmidial?
No.
Mr. Nakid?
No.
Mr. Lyda?
No.
Mr. Roberts?
No.
Dr. Richards?
Abstain.
Mr. Vera S.C.?
Yes.
Dr. Dial Singh?
Abstain.
Ms. Yunarang?
Yes.
Ms. C. Prasad?
Yes.
Mr. Timal?
No.
Mrs. Thompson Aye?
No.
Dr. Dylan Remy?
Yes.
And Mr. Welch?
Abstain.
Mr. President, the result of the division is as follows. 19 members voted for, 8 members voted against, and 3 members abstained.
Honourable Senators, the results of the division is as follows. 19 senators voted for, 8 senators voted against, and 3 senators abstained. As such, the question is put and passed.
An act to amend the Public Procurement and Disposal of Public Property Act 2015 and to validate the non-laying of statutory instruments as required under Section 7, subsection 7 of the Public Procurement and Disposal of Public Property Act.
Honourable Senators, in accordance with Standing Order 12.4, this Senate now stands adjourned to a date to be fixed.